Okay, good evening. We're getting ready to launch tonight. There we go. Welcome everyone. Good to see you. Good to have something different tonight. If you are joining us and you don't know who we are, my name is Daniel. I'm from Upside Down Church, and we're going to get kicked off just in a second now. Yeah. Okay. So how this is going to work, we're going to do it a little bit different. This is not going to be a preach as such, but I'm going to need you to contribute. I am going to need you to join in. I want us to have a conversation. I'll give you some background. Us as a church, we've been, we started this new series called Making Disciples, and the idea is that as a church we've realized the need and the absolute urgency to make disciples and to also train people up to make disciples. The power of the gospel was hugely there because of, or let's rather not say that. Let's say that the influence of the gospel was largely due to people that caught the message of Jesus, and who caught the message of the cross, and they started sharing their experience. They started sharing their testimony of how they knew Jesus. And the fact is that they then took that message and they did the same thing that Jesus did with them. He shared the gospel. They shared the gospel. They shared their testimony with other people. That's what we're going to look at tonight. And then how we do it is for each week we've got a specific topic. So generally we're talking about discipleship, but then we've got a topic that we use for discussion or for questions or for deeper study. And the idea is then that you take the topic or take the idea and then you go and walk with somebody else, and then you go and disciple someone within that topic. We're using another church's program. It's called 1-to-1. It's a church in the Philippines called Every Nation, and they make these materials accessible to everyone. So there's an app called 1-to-1 it's on Android and on Apple, and you can go and get the app. It gives you all the topics that we're going to discuss. So for you to go and disciple someone, it's quite simple. It's not difficult in the sense of the material and the information. The information is freely there. So what I would say is that you can easily start. Sorry, just moving my camera a bit. You could easily disciple someone. And something we've spoke about this morning, something we've looked at this morning, was the fact that a lot of people have good excuses why not to disciple, why we shouldn't, why they can't disciple, and why they don't have what is necessary to disciple. And I'm going to so here's the heart of our church, is to equip every believer, every person that comes into our church. Doesn't matter age, doesn't matter background, education. We want to give you the tools so that you could reach people, but to reach the full full commands of Jesus. So let me just do this for you guys. I want to give you the material we're using, just to show you what it is, and then you can go and get it, and then you can get someone as well to disciple, to share the good news of Jesus with, and to grow with someone. I'm gonna quickly so here's the Android one, but I just want to show you what it looks like, the basic idea. If you check on YouTube, in the comments, there's a link there. I'll quickly put it on Facebook as well. And so the idea is then that you get everything you need to go and disciple someone. First of all, we preach about it in the morning. We cover it in the morning. We give you all the, not all the, but we give you a whole bunch of nuts and bolts about what it's all about. And then you can go and look at the information on the app, on your phone. And then after that, the evening, we do question and answers. And this is what this evening session is about. So that you can come and say, okay, well, this is either a topic that we've come across during this series and I need answers, or you can say that, listen here, I don't understand this, or you said this, and so we opening up for some questioning. So please, guys, if you are joining us tonight, join us with bring questions, let's have a discussion. I'm open for questions. So I want to share this with you guys. So I met this another guy a while back, and we had a good chat, and so his background was he was in a Christian cult. He was a Jehovah's Witness, and he said that his biggest red light, which with the way he was brought up, was that they weren't allowed to ask questions. They weren't allowed to question their faith. And I'm saying that's sad, because it's when you truly can question what people believe and what you believe that you can come to conclusions and really have a faith that's based off of something. And we need to ask questions, and we need to get answers, and we need to figure things out. I really love what Paul said. He said, we need to work out our salvation with fear and trembling. But the big thing here is the working out. Have you worked out your salvation? Because that's what we're going to do in these evening sessions. We're going to get more people to join in the conversation eventually. One of our other pastors, well, probably all our pastors eventually will join in, and we'll have discussions, and we will open up some good topics. So for tonight, I just want to broadly cover the discipleship thing, and then we'll look a little bit at last week and this week, and then we'll see where we go from there. Last week we spoke about salvation, and I'll just give you a quick overview, and as we talk, please drop a question, a comment, and then we'll see how we can interact a little bit. But the long and short of salvation is the fact that we see in creation something was corrupted and something went wrong. We still see that there is something that causes stuff to happen that God does not agree with, that God does not like. And from the beginning, there was this thing that causes man to lose the full potential or the full purpose that he was created for. And we use the term sin for that. And unfortunately, the term sin in our Western way of thinking has a very limited idea. It's sort of this list of list of don'ts, and it's just simply things you need to stay away from. But the term sin actually goes way deeper than that. So sin is, I think if you had to let's start here. It's this idea of separation, and it's the idea of separation from God. Right? So what sin does is, the results of sin, first of all, it's a separation. It's a separating catalyst. I don't get the right word now, but it's the thing that separates us from God. What is this? Chemists, help me out here. What that thing that separates? It was a catalyst, causes things to bind and come together and creates anew. But what I'm talking about is something you add that separates. So what sin does, it separates us from our relationship with God, but then also it separates us from our purpose and our destiny, what we were created for. So sin is this thing that came into creation, that corrupted creation. You can also call it evil, and evil uses sin to destroy, to steal, to kill what God intends for good. Now, in itself, that whole process is not God's plan, but God promises to work all things together for those that he loves and those that love him. And God had a plan before creation to send Jesus Christ, the Son, to reveal himself on earth and to pay the price, or to kill the separation, or to take everything away that causes us to be separated from God and to be separated from purpose. Now, what we need to realize is our job now is to accept Jesus, accept what he did for us, accept who he is for us, and now because of that we can then be connected to him again, not through anything we do, not by even keeping rules or anything. It is by accepting what he did, and then walking in the freedom and in the forgiveness and in the connection with him. And this is exactly what the vision or the dream of Upside Down is, that we're all about connection, right? So that we've been called to one, to make disciples, two, to connect people, to reconcile people back to God. Our key verse for Upside Down Church is Acts chapter 17, and it talks about this. It talks about that God has predestined where we will live, the times we live in that time, the boundaries of our walls, for the purpose that other people would see the glory of God. And that's what discipleship is. Discipleship is when people get that they can connect people to God. And the way we connect people to God is by giving them the medicine, or giving them the answer, or giving them the person that's going to help them to reconcile with God, to meet God again. And this is cool, to reconcile to purpose again, to reconcile to meaning again. And that's important, especially for us South Africans, but not only South Africans, but around the world. COVID has caused us to think a bit. COVID has caused us to consider again, what is the meaning of it all? What's the purpose of it all? Why do I get up in the morning? Is there more than an 8 to 5? And that's what I want to challenge you with, that yes, there is. God is calling you to more. He's calling you to, firstly, to be in a relationship with Him. Secondly, He's calling you to meaning and purpose that you can now get other people to be in relationship with Him. And I'm not talking to church leaders here. I'm not talking to pastors or evangelists. I'm talking to every single person that follows Jesus. Because the heart of Jesus will always and will never change, will be people. The currency of heaven is people. Do you love people? Does your heart bleed for people? So I was reminded of this verse when Jesus goes to, when Jesus comes into Jerusalem on the donkey and they put down the palm leaves, the next verse says this, and Jesus looked at the city and He wept. He cried. And part of it is this, dual part of it. The first part of it is that Jesus cried because they didn't accept Him as the Messiah. The other part is they weren't connected to Him. They didn't know God. They knew the Israeli Judaism created to fit a certain culture that was very far from God. On the other spectrum is Jesus is crying because He loves the people. You see, cities represent people. Cities represent where there's a lot of people. And where there's a lot of people, there's a lot of work. There's a lot of people that need discipling. I was just thinking of this morning. Peach, one of the Oxen Church, was sharing how he was looking at the riots and the stuff, the looting happening. And I actually think we had the same thought. Because in the middle of it all, I was also thinking, Jesus, how can we fix this? What can we do to fix our country? What can we do to help these people? And you know what was my conclusion? And to be quite honest with you, this is why we are doing this series, was the answer is discipleship. These guys looting, they have never been discipled. They have never been mentored. They have never sat with someone talking about the fact that God's got more for you, the fact that God loves you, the fact that you are supposed to love others. They've never been allowed into a position or into a place where they could sit in conversation with someone that truly loves them for the sake of them, somebody that will cry about them. And if us as a church lose that, we've lost a very big fight. And I think we have to a large extent. We've lost the power and the impact of discipleship. So I was just sharing this morning that the 12 disciples really expected Jesus Himself to change everything. And Jesus did. He did change everything. But the thing that really brought the change was when Jesus went to heaven. He gave His disciples this final commissioning. And the commissioning is cool because commissioning is not just, I'm sending you. It's also that I am empowering you to go. And if you sort of read the Gospels backwards and you start at the commissioning and you look back, you see how from the beginning Jesus is equipping them for something bigger that they weren't really seeing. I mean, Jesus talks often about the fact that you will be rejected for my name's sake, that you will get the words when you don't have the words. And so Jesus is constantly training these oaks to be vocal, to be ready to speak about what's coming. And this is true for us as well, that we have the tool to impact, to change, to revolutionize the world. In their case, in the 12 disciples' case, they really expected, and in their context, they expected Jesus to become a political leader. They expected Jesus to stand up and to be their salvation and to be their king. What they didn't know was that Jesus is not from this kingdom. He's from another kingdom that's way bigger than this kingdom. But then Jesus does something amazing in the commissioning. He does not bring the change in himself, but he gives the 12, but also us, the commission to go and do it. And this is where we're going to jump into the next part is what we spoke about today, was making disciples from a Lordship place. Now, disciple making is as simple as that I've just said already, that we're on a journey, and this journey is that it's my walk with God, and how I'm constantly figuring out how to walk with God. And then in my figuring outs, I invite people into my figuring outs, and then we figure things out together. And yes, I might have been doing this for a bit longer, so there's a certain relationship where I can give you input in certain areas, but in our process, I'm also growing and I'm also developing, and oftentimes that person will move on and you find someone else. But to be intentional and to be practical, but to have a plan, that I think for too many years, or too many decades, centuries, we've done church without a plan, without a strategy. That's the word. We've just done church, and yes, the church congregation must have a vision, and they must. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking to you, church, because you, the person listening to this, is the church. And what's your plan and your strategy to disciple people? And something I didn't mention this morning was that who's God putting on your heart? Is God saying that you need to ask somebody else to disciple you? Or is he saying that you need to approach someone else and say, listen here, I'm feeling God saying we need to journey together? Either you can directly say that I would like to disciple you on this journey. Can we do the one-to-one course together for the next couple of weeks? And the first step, take that step of faith, saying, well, Jesus said, he promised that if I take that step of faith, if I go, he'll give me the words, he'll equip me, and also I'll do whatever I can, but Jesus will help me, and as I do this, I'll get better. And are you willing? Are you willing to do that? I want to get back to the other thing we spoke about this morning, was excuses. And excuses is difficult because, like I said this morning, that some of the excuses are really good excuses, and some of the excuses could really be, the right word would be, practical excuses. It's good excuses, but the problem with an excuse is that an excuse comes from the position of thinking I've got the permission to excuse myself. And it's hard, but I want you guys to hear this again, that discipleship and Christianity cannot be separated. If you call yourself Christian, then you are a disciple, because disciple simply is either someone that disciplines them in the in the context of Christianity, it's a disciple is someone that disciplines himself in the teachings and the person of Jesus Christ, and that you follow Jesus to such an extent that you then become like him. Just going to steal something from Rob Bell. He has some good stuff and some not so good stuff, so if you do read or listen to him, just be careful. But one of the best things I've listened to of him is his Numa Series. So there's this is how old we are, DVDs, that the DVD series is anyways, so he takes topics and then he talks a little bit about it, and it's like short little video teachings, and it's very creative and very well done. But this specific one is called Dust, and this video teaching changed my life, because in the teaching he talks about a lot of things, but he talks about this Jewish teaching that they had specifically in Jesus' time, and it said, let you walk so closely to your rabbi that the dust of your rabbi would sit on you. And that's so beautiful. It's such a good picture that we walk so close to Jesus that when he kicks up dust, it comes and sits on us. In other words, that Jesus rubs off on us, and also then we can rub off on other people. You know what Paul said? He said to Timothy, he said, follow me like I follow Christ. In other words, we look to Christ and we allow him to shape us, to form us, but then also we look to each other to be shaped into the image and likeness of Jesus. I see we're going to have to build some momentum with these sessions because we don't have a lot of viewers, so we're not getting a lot of questions. Thanks, Oria, for that comment. I'm also glad we have this strategy. I just want to talk a little bit about Lordship, if there's anyone listening that wasn't there this morning. And the Lordship of Christ is simply this, that Jesus is the Lord. He is God, and because of that he is Lord. He's also Lord because he did everything on our behalf to make that connection again with the Father, with the Trinity. And Jesus is the Lord because that is his title. He is God. There's groups of churches, well, let's rather say religions, because they're not Christian, that would deny the fact that Jesus is God. And the truth is, Jesus is God. Jesus is the incarnated form of God on earth. He didn't just get born or created when he was born. He was before creation. He was part of creation, and everything that was made through Jesus. And then Jesus comes to earth, incarnated in flesh, becomes one of us, and he fulfills every requirement and rejoins us to the Father. And because of that, he is the Lord. And here's the tricky thing with Lordship, though, that we often want to accept Jesus in levels or in measurement. That we would say that I want so much of Jesus. Just it reminds me now of a story. When I was years back, I was teaching. There was a school, and I taught life orientation and something else. And one of the girls, so what I did then was break times, I would stay in class, and then if kids had spiritual questions or things, they could come or stay behind and we'll chat. And so this one day, the topic that came up was if you're not Christian, if you are Christian, can I date a non-Christian or someone from another religion? So the Bible is straightforward about that. So we don't, I don't want to use the word mixed, but mix. We don't, the word says something about don't be unequally yoked. And what that means is don't be tied up with someone that's not of the same religion as you. And also, if you really go study some of the Old Testament things, Jesus, the Trinity, God didn't want Israel to mix with other tribes, not because of culture or skin color, but because of religious affiliation. And we also see when they did do that, how bad it did go. So, long story short, back to the answer. So the question was then, the answer is bad idea. Then the one girl that's Muslim, she's a Muslim that came and asked questions. I loved it. So you get the opportunity to disciple people. Before I carry on with the story, I'm going to quickly say this about discipleship. We think that discipleship starts the moment somebody believes. I want to say discipleship starts when there's a relationship. And then as the relationship grows, the person will start believing. We need to get more friends. I just want to make sure that I'm still going. Something froze on my side. Okay. Sorry guys, just going to quickly check something. Yes, I definitely froze. Okay, I've definitely frozen out now. Hoping to be back now. Okay, let's see. Okay, I think I'm back. Sorry about that. I'm not sure totally what happened there. Hey. Sorry guys, there's going to be a couple of things that go wrong quickly. But I'll be with you now, just if you can hang in there. Can you believe this?